Megan. We've met. We have Megan Fisher. From Oasis Senior Advisors, we have Laura Goodman of Margolis, Bloom, and DeGastino Law, and Janice Bosworth of Caldwell Banker, and Natalie Dayhern.
Yep, close enough. Yeah.
There you are. Ahern.
You know, people say it one way or another, and we take it either way. Yeah.
What's the proper?
My husband says Ahern.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's
I
what
figured
he
it says. All right. And Jay Tolman of Home Instead. Ta-da! And you're here to discuss anything and everything, all the questions that you might have in life. They're going to answer for you.
And hopefully you have the answers.
Bring questions and answers.
Right.
So we're going to start with an introduction of each of us. We're going to tell a little bit about ourselves and a little bit about the service and what you can expect if you engage with a service like ours. I'm going to stand up through the whole thing because I'm having some back issues and it hurts me to sit. But I think, Laura, were you starting?
Yeah, so do you want me to kind of go through everything now, or are we just doing a brief introduction first?
Well, how long is your everything
I
now?
don't know.
I will
Couple hours.
It's 6 minutes.
5 to 7
yeah.
minutes. Okay. Hi, thanks everyone for coming. I'm Laura Goodman. So I'm an attorney with Margolis, Bloom, and D'Agostino. We're an estate planning firm out in Metro West. And I am going to talk a little bit about some of the considerations you might have when you meet with an estate planning attorney, or if you're considering creating an estate plan or updating a plan that you have. So a couple things, when you're looking or when you're thinking about an estate plan, especially if you're older, you might have an estate plan in place, but maybe you did it 30 years ago, 40 years ago, a long time ago when your children were younger, or, just things have changed considerably since you did that. So we do recommend that you review your documents at least every 5 years. Doesn't mean you have to make updates every 5 years, but at least take a look at them, make sure that the people that you've named in the documents are still with us, and can still, take on roles if you have named them to take on some type of role. Make sure that, who you're leaving your property to is still who you want to receive the property. And just make sure everything is still in accordance with what you want. And if you are going to be meeting with an attorney to review your estate plan or create one, you're going to want to compile a list of your finances. That's going to be really important for the attorney to see. So you'll need to have a list of all of your assets, how things are owned, your income sources, what you receive each month for income. And that's because the attorney needs to know what your assets are and make sure we're not missing anything. So it's important that you kind of do that homework behind the scenes before you go in to meet with someone. So there's a number of goals that you might have for your estate plan. Some of the more common ones that we see, one is avoiding probate. So I don't know if anyone's been through a probate process for, a family member or a friend. Can be a burdensome process. It takes a while, often has to involve legal fees. So a lot of people want to try to avoid probate for their loved ones. So, set things up so that, things don't have to go through the probate court after they pass away. Another goal is making sure that if you were to lose capacity, if you weren't able to make your own medical and financial decisions, make sure you have people appointed that can step in and make those decisions for you. That would avoid, guardianship and conservatorship if in the future. Another thing is planning for long-term care. So Megan's going to talk a bit more about kind of long-term care options, but long-term care is obviously very expensive, especially if you are in a nursing home setting, and there, things like Medicare is not going to cover long-term care in that type of setting. So sometimes people are concerned about how are they going to pay for that care if it comes to that. And there are some things you can do within your estate plan to try to protect assets and make sure that you don't have to impoverish yourself and your family entirely in order to gain access to some of those long-term care benefits.
Can we ask questions now?
Do you want to save questions for?
Let's save the questions for the end.
In reference to this the nursing home.
Yeah.
And I understand that's a 5-year advance preparation.
Yes.
But I also have heard through some legal programs on the air that even if you don't have that 5-year advance, you can still manage to do something legally that will not overwhelm your assets.
Yeah, so there's different ways. So, when you're talking about long-term care planning, there's kind of this 5-year plan where you're thinking, if I need to go into a nursing home, 5 years, 10 years from now, I can put things in a trust, and after 5 years it'll be protected. So that's kind of the advanced planning. There's also crisis planning we do.
Oh, crisis.
So we call that crisis planning, at least we do, but people might call it different things. But that is, maybe you have a married couple and, the husband has dementia and is going to need to go into a facility, but wife is still at home. And so there are things we can do to protect assets to the extent possible for wife at home, so that they don't have to spend all of their dollars on husband's care, leaving the wife with very little, for
Does
her
that
own care.
also pertain to children being caregivers?
It can, yes. So there's a lot of nuances, so we're not going to be able to cover everything, and I'm happy to talk with you after too. But yeah, so there's certain exceptions from, there's something called the state recovery. So if you do go into a nursing home, if you're receiving Mass Health, then the state can put a lien on your home. That's something that you may have heard of. And there are exceptions to that, which includes if you have a child or relative who lives in the home and takes care of you,
Yeah.
that can, qualify for an exception. If you have a disabled child, that can qualify. So there's a lot of different nuances to kind of the Mass Health rules. So just a couple other quick things. If you have children or grandchildren or family members who are disabled and who you are going to be leaving property to, that's a really important consideration and something you really need to discuss with an attorney. I don't know if that applies to any of you, but a lot of times people are like, oh, I want to leave X amount of dollars to my grandchild because, she has these special needs and she's going to need the money. If you just leave it to her outright, that actually can have a negative implication on her. So, things like that, you have to talk with an attorney to find out the best way to leave your estate to the people that you want to receive it. Also, Massachusetts estate taxes, that's also something we commonly discuss with people. In Massachusetts, we have an estate tax. It's one of the lowest ones in the country. If you have more than $2 million in your gross estate when you pass away, there's a tax.
Is that what it is now?
2 million. Yes, it was increased about a year ago to 2 million, which is good, but it's still one of the lowest in the country. And that includes, real estate, retirement assets, the death benefit of life insurance policies. So even if you don't consider yourself a wealthy person, it's not too difficult to reach that $2 million limit. And yeah, so I'm not going to get too much. Is that by my 5 to 7 minutes? Okay, all right, but happy to answer questions after.
Jim.
Yeah.
Two questions.
Okay.
Let's hold the questions till the end so that we
We'll
can
hold them
each
right- yeah.
introduce ourselves and
Yeah.
then you can ask away. So who was going to go second?
So I'm up next. So I'm Janice Bosworth with Caldwell Banker, and so I'm a senior real estate specialist who happens to be a senior also. So I've been doing this for a number of years, so I've been a realtor for over 20 years, and the older I get, it seems the older my clientele gets also. So my specialty, I specialize, probably 60% of my business is helping seniors downsize. So oftentimes there's a couple of different reasons why I get the phone call. It could be from a family member, it could be from the owner themselves. And I think the number one thing is that the house is just getting too big for them. So they're living in 3 rooms, they might have 8 rooms, and they're heating and air conditioning the rest of the space. So they're paying all of the utility bills for just using a quarter of what the house's space. So typically what we'll do is we'll have a conversation over the phone, and then we'll meet in person to talk about some of your options. So some people already have identified where they want to go. So some people are going to move with their children. They actually have a term for it. If you're moving with your grandchildren, it's called baby chasing. That's the new term. I thought that was pretty funny. So a lot of people already know where they're going to go, and then some people don't have any idea. So budget is definitely one of those considerations we look at when we first have an initial conversation. And I realize that oftentimes it's a very emotional time, that first conversation, because you found your house you could have raised your children in the home. So I completely understand the emotions, and we talk through different types of things that are going to happen when you put your house, when and if you want to put your house on the market. Some people are curious to see if they can age in place, if the space is right. So we'll walk around the house and kind of talk about different things to see if there's a possibility where it would make sense for you and your budget to age in place. And the first meeting it's always more coming on the side of the customer service than it is on the sales side, So it's more of a relational versus a transactional. So when a person is upsizing, it's usually a transactional. It's pretty quick. They know where they want to go. And when a person's downsizing, there's a lot to do to prepare your home for sale. So my advice to people, even if you're not thinking of it now, is to kind of go through your house and start to downsize. Because there's a lot of stuff I think that I could identify quite a few things that I could get rid of and live without. But it's always good to do that room by room, take your time and just kind of make notes of what you want to get rid of and what you want to keep. So that when the time comes, you are ready, you are way more prepared than if you're starting out with a clutter and kind of a lifetime of things in your home. So it's a process, and it's a process that I promise you that if when you're working with a senior real estate specialist, we know how to navigate the process. So I will walk you through every step of the way, and I'll communicate the way that's best for you. Some people don't do text. Some people don't do email. They don't like to talk on the phone. So we'll see each other a lot. But I promise by the time you get to the end, you'll be a lot happier than where you were at the beginning. So a lot of people, when they finally do get to the end and they know where they're going, they're actually excited about it, and it works out great.
Okay, Natalie?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Natalie Ahern. Can you all hear me okay? I hear I have a very soft voice, although my children would not agree with that, and they think I'm a little on the loud side. They say, Mom, you don't know how to whisper. So I'm Natalie Ahern from All the Right Moves. We are downsizing specialists and senior move managers. So we are based in Situate, Mass. And all of the ladies that work with me we're all in our 50s, 60s. We've downsized ourselves and or downsized our parents. So our knowledge is not only from working with clients, but also from going through the process ourselves. I read a statistic in the fall that said moving is one of the top 4 most stressful things you do in your life. And I would completely agree with that. And also, most of the people that I work with have been in their homes for 30, 40, or 50 years. Mm-hmm. So it's a lifetime of stuff that we've accumulated, right? Hard to say goodbye to. So it's not surprising that the emergence of a move manager / downsizing specialist has become so big over the years. When I started my business, there were 800 of us across the country that belonged to one association, which I'll talk about a little later. But now there's double that. So no matter where you are in the country, where you're moving to, or if you have a relative in another part of the country that might need help, this association is a great place to start. And again, I'll talk about that in a little bit. But if you've never heard of a downsizing specialist or move manager before, you're not alone. Almost everybody I meet says, oh my gosh, I wish I knew about your service when I moved or when I moved my parents. So again, it's a very helpful thing to get you over that, that curve of up and down and trying to get rid of things. So I'll give you a little bit of information about what I do, and I think most of the people that do what I do have a very similar process. But I set up a complimentary consult with somebody who calls and says they're interested in our services. I do a walkthrough of your home. The reason I do that is what one person's 2-bedroom home would look like on one side. They may have a lot of things they've collected over the years, may be different from what somebody else with a 2-bedroom home might look like who's really a minimalist. So we need to see the amount of things you've accumulated, but also it's really to get to know you and for you to get to know me. So whoever you speak to in regards to doing this type of service, it should really be a connection in terms of personality and them understanding what your vision of your next step will look like. So we do a walkthrough and we really try to balance joy with practicality. So lots of times people will say, well, I love that curio cabinet, but I know I can't take it. And to me, that's a red flag, because that, to me, is something that you love, and the contents are something that you love. And whatever I can do to make that happen, to help you take that to the next place that you're living, is really important to me. We also, try to figure out practical solutions to downsizing. So for most of us, myself included, when I moved to a condo from a house, I couldn't take my dining room with me. But what we will frequently recommend to people is take the bottom part of your china cabinet. You can put your TV on top of it, and you can use the bottom to store office supplies or kitchen things, whatever it is. But it's a nice way to bring some of that important dining room that you had so many good memories in with you. When I do a walkthrough, I will ask you what you are looking for in terms of services. Sometimes people want to stay in their home and they just want to declutter, maybe move their bedroom from the second floor to the first floor. That's about 20% of what I do, and the other 80% is actually moving people. So what I will do is I provide estimates for staging and helping you get your house on the market. Whether it requires a haul-away company, whatever it might be. The second thing is helping you sort and downsize, and perhaps prepare a floor plan of the new place that you're going to. The third thing is packing. We've become expert packers over the years, and of course we're fully insured. And anybody in our association is fully insured, so just so that you know. And then helping you find a mover, a junk hauler, whatever it might be. And our favorite part is unpacking, because that's when we get to see our clients settled in. So I provide estimates for each of those services so you can decide what fits best for you. And then let me just think. The only other thing that I wanted to say was people say to me, how do you choose a move manager? Because there aren't a lot of us out there that can help you. And again, it's I would recommend going to the association that we have, because we're insured, we're trained, we have to have references. So it's a great place to start, no matter where you're going. And then the other thing is personality. Again, how do you mesh with that person who's coming into your home? Do they understand what you are interested in and where you're going and what you want to do? And that is really the biggest reason that you would want to choose somebody to help you with this process. So thank you. Megan?
Thanks, Jake.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Tim.
It's a little chilly out there today. My name's Jay Tolman. I'm with a company called Home Instead, and we're a home care company and provide non-medical home care in your home. So what I'm trying to do is different from what these guys are trying to do. Well, I shouldn't say Laura, but we're talking about keeping people in home as long as possible, but understanding that working with Megan and some of these other folks here can help navigate sort of next steps for you. And I think what's helpful in an environment like this, and the fact that you're here says a lot, because I think that getting this kind of knowledge and information at this stage ahead of time is going to help in so you don't it doesn't become a crisis situation where you have to jump and do things. But what we provide is non-medical. We're different than home health. It's sort of confusing. Home health is more the VNAs, the nursing and PT and OT coming out to the home. We sort of fill in because they're in and out. If you need support at home, they're really sort of in and out for half hour, 40 minutes to help support you. But if you need additional support, just from a safety standpoint, a fall risk, or you need any help with any personal care, things like that, actually we have a number of clients that are just companionship, just getting out, where some people can't get out. We help them to get out and do things, whether it's going down to Situate Light or go to Sandy Beach and look at the Lighthouse 143. And so it entails a lot of different things. It's not just personal care. And I think one of the things that's really important when you're looking at home care companies is, the staff, the reputation, the reviews, things like that that are really, I think, important to help make a decision. And also, I think that just having conversation, whether, we have a conversation here with questions, I'm happy to come out and talk through things to see what needs might be. Maybe that you don't need home care, but you need somebody else on the panel to help you through, so we can, as I say, help navigate things. So things that we do, any personal care, help in the shower, just keeping people safe is critical. Obviously, medication reminders, grocery shopping, picking up prescriptions, really just any sort of support. And I think that a lot of our clients and home care clients in general, there may be a spouse that really needs the support, but it's respite for the other spouse. I think we all feel, I know I feel this way, that I can do it, I can handle it. But at some point, especially if you're a spouse taking care of somebody, you really need to realize that, if you go down, all bets are off. So I think, that's a difficult process, I think, to, really think about and make decisions on. So, having a conversation with folks can be helpful. So, some of the home care is not covered by Medicare. I could get up on my soapbox about that. But it is covered by, if people have long-term care insurance. We also work with the VA. A number of home care agencies work with the VA. So the VA would authorize so many hours per week, and we would just bill the VA directly. And that's something, if you haven't looked into and you are a spouse or are a veteran, you have support here, as well as some of other communities. So I'm always looking for free stuff, as far as support financially. And so there are some avenues that, we can take a look at. What else? I think the other thing that we opened, Home Instead, we opened a dementia-friendly daycare program in Norwell, which is where we're at. It used to be the old garden center, I think. It's an old Victorian house on 53. And it's for people with dementia, and it's really a great program, either half day or full day, which gives respite to a family member.
Where are you located?
We're right on Route 53 in Norwell, sort of near Assinippie, the intersection.
What's the name of your place?
Home Instead.
Oh, Home
Yep,
Instead. That's
yep.
the name of it.
Yep, that's where you'd rather be, right? Home Instead. So we have that program, and I'm happy to talk to you about it. It's really great. It's a social model where we only have 8 to 10 people a day, and it's just active and really stimulating for people with dementia. We opened it mainly because, probably about 60% of our clients have some level of dementia, whether it be early or moderate severe. So, but I'm happy to answer questions, and I've talked too much. So.
All right. As Patty said, I'm Megan Fisher. I own the Boston and South Shore office of Oasis Senior Advisors. And I'll tell you what Oasis Senior Advisors is in a second, but I want to let you know a little bit about me. I come to this from a caregiving background. So my late husband was a service-connected disabled veteran, and I was a caregiver for 14 years. And when he passed and my kids went off to college, we had been living in Kansas and moved back here. I wanted to do something in sort of that field, helping people who have a family member in declining health. And so what Oasis Senior Advisors does is help guide people who are considering independent living, assisted living, or a memory care community. Now, if they want to stay home longer, I'll recommend Jay or someone like Jay, possibly a declutterer. But if you are thinking about independent living because it's a very social environment, maybe you aren't driving anymore and it's hard for you to get your meals, hard to get down to the pub, whatever, or if you're thinking about assisted living because you need that level of care, there's lots of ways that you can do it, right? You can sit down in front of your computer and you can Google assisted livings near me, and it'll spit out 30 or 40 or 50 of them, and you can call each one and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for, this is my price range, and see if they fit. Now, if you type in assisted living near me, the first half dozen to dozen entries will be internet-based referral companies. They kind of do what I do, but they're internet-based, right? So they'll take your information and they'll send you half a dozen communities that maybe fit your needs, but they're also sending into those communities your information. And those communities are now in a race to call you, because by the time you've had 4 calls in 3 minutes, you're done talking to anybody. I had this kind of happen to me. I went to lendingtree.com, was thinking about refinancing my house. I didn't realize it was this kind of clearinghouse, and I got all these phone calls from all these like crazy fly-by-night banks. Anyways, the other easy way to find assisted living or independent living, memory care, is through a local advisor like me. Right? So I'm not the only game in town. There's several people on the South Shore that do what I do. But if you call somebody like me, they will talk to you either in person or on the phone, whatever you're most comfortable with. Find out your financial ability, so what range to look in, what your care needs currently are, or what they may be in the future, and what kind of lifestyle you like. So for some people, it's important to have religious services every Sunday. Other people want happy hour, 3 o'clock every Friday. For some people, it's the swimming pool. You know, everybody's got their things that they must have, and then the things that they need. And your local advisor goes into those communities all the time. We tour with our clients if they want us to. So we're really up on what amenities there are, who may be having trouble, maybe the chef isn't working out. We hear all the scuttlebutt. So we can really help you. The other important part of our service is that we act as the point of contact. So you don't get those extra sales calls that you probably don't want, unless you do want them, in which case we're happy to share your information, but we won't until you tell us that it's okay. The other thing about our service is that it's free to our clients. We get paid a referral fee by whatever community somebody moves into, if it's one we've recommended. But we work with almost everybody, and we have 5 other offices in Massachusetts, so if you want to move to be near your, kids out in, Belchertown or someplace, we have an office there. If you want to move to another part of the country, we have 120-ish offices, so we can really help facilitate that and make it as painless as possible. Yes?
Does your group cover the ratings and standards of nursing homes? Because there's an awful lot of nursing homes, and the ordinary person doesn't know a lot about them and, what they're like.
So the assisted livings, because we're a referral service that gets paid by the community, those communities are all private pay, all right? And they are not governed by the rules that govern nursing homes.
The state does that.
The state does that, right. So
Where
the
would you
state
get
rules,
that kind of information.
so it's really hard to get that information, which is why a local advisor comes in handy,
Well, that's
because
what I'm asking.
we can tell you, oh yeah, there were, well, I know 4 people have moved out of that community in the last 2 months, which kind of lets you know there's an issue there. So that's the kind of thing a local advisor can do, but they are not regulated at the same level that a nursing home is.
Well, I had an issue because when my husband had to go into a nursing home, we did a little research and we finally found one. And when we got there, the physical setup was great, but then the service, was not. So that's what I'm asking. A lot of people don't know what's going on in some of these nursing homes before they go in.
So nursing homes, mass.gov actually has a really great website for information on nursing homes, how to pick one out. and what to look for.
What's the name?
It's the state of Massachusetts. It's mass.gov. And when you get on that page, just type in nursing home, and it will give you all these resources. Now, nursing homes have a Medicare, and Medicaid has a rating system for nursing homes, right?
Medicare does?
Yes, Medicare. But you can get it through this mass.gov site, 1 star to 5 stars. You got to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt because the ratings are based on self-reported data. All right. But I would recommend, if it's 4 stars or 5 stars, it's probably okay. Below that, I would be worried about having a loved one in one of those. So take it, but, do your, go and look, talk to other people who were there, family members of people who were there. It's one way you can do that. You had some questions for our attorney, I think.
I made it over a will, and the person that is in it was 47, he died with here. He was supposed to work out, but he had just with school, he was studying for the doctorate, so we have that in a debt and decided into an accident, and he had a hospital debt. Now he died. My question is, how do I make sure that my future income will go to the family rather than to debt?
So it depends how the will is drafted. So if it leaves it to this individual, and then,
Mention his family.
you
as
mentioned the
well.
family. So like, does it say something like if he's not living, then to
No,
his?
I haven't mentioned anything.
Oh, okay.
because He was trying to tell me I was
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
do that.
So
They
most-
were expecting me to
Yeah,
die.
most likely you'll need to update your will to.
And how do I do that?
So did you work with someone to create the first will?
What I did was to make it out, add by Diane, and she wanted to sign it in
Mm-hmm.
probate or whatever the term is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all set at that. I haven't touched it because I didn't know what to do.
Yeah. So, you can work with an attorney to create a new will. Some people do write their own wills. I don't recommend that just because, it has to make sure it's meeting all of the legal requirements to be a valid will. So my recommendation would be to consult with a local attorney to update your will.
Where would I find the next?
So I can send you some resources. I'm an attorney. I'm happy to talk with you, but I can also give you some names for more local attorneys as well.
Now, my second question. I'm writing a book. So I'm thinking of publicity.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking of future income.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be added into it.
You can reference it specifically. Otherwise, any royalties or things like that would just pass with the residue of your estate. So whoever's receiving your estate, they would receive any future royalty interest as well.
Wow. I need them all.
What's your book about?
Yeah.
What's your book about?
Well, I am a science teacher, and basically there is one theory that we have not settled, and that's the theory of everything, and that's what the book is about.
Hey.
It's another theory of everything.
Okay, sounds good.
Calls it a valley of the Bible.
Wow.
Okay.
Did anybody else have any questions? Wow, we're good.
Wow.
Well, feel free to ask us individually if you have a question that you don't want to share with the bigger group. There's brochures, I think, for all of us over there, and business cards if you want to get in touch with us and talk about something else that you remember as soon as you walk out the door. That's what happens to me.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, thank
And
you
it-
so much for coming.
And I would recommend, taking one of our cards, so if you do have questions about sort of anything, I think we're all pretty well versed in the different areas that might be helpful to you.
Yeah.
As I always say, I may not know the answer, but I know someone who does.
Right, right.